E aí, pessoal? No meu primeiro mês monetizado, eu já fiz alguns dólares só seguindo o que esse cara fala no curso dele. Então, se você quer ganhar dinheiro com a internet no YouTube sem nem precisar aparecer, confere o primeiro link na descrição.
Startups. I'm your host, Jason Calacanis, and this is the podcast where we talk to founders about their vision for how they want to change the world. And today, we've got an interesting cat on the program. His name is Alexandr Wang. He is the CEO and co-founder of SCALE AI. He got the domain name scale.com. That's like $1 million domain name. We'll find out what he paid for it later. I guess the thing that most people would think is remarkable is candidly that you've raised over $100 million in your last round of funding. That's a lot of money.
It's quite a bit.
It's quite a bit of money from Founders Fund. And that I think you're 22 years old.
22, yeah.
22. So that's annoying to be young and successful because then every interview starts with your age.
A little bit.
It's annoying. I had it happen to me. People were like 23-year-old publisher of Cybersurfer, 25-year-old publisher of Silicon Valley Reporter. And I was like, why does my age matter? Now, I tell you, when you hit about 35, 40, they don't mention it anymore. Because they're like, well, you're 40. You should be doing interesting things or be successful in the world. But you've been running this company since you were how old?
19.
19. Now, were you a Teal Fellow or something? How did you get into the game?
No, so I have a fun little history. I grew up in Los Alamos, New Mexico. So
Okay.
both my parents are physicists, and they worked at the National Lab in Los Alamos.
Yeah.
When
And tell people about that lab.
it was the lab where the atomic bomb was originally built. So
Yeah.
the Manhattan Project started in Los Alamos. It was very secretive at that time.
Yeah.
What
What do they call that lab?
Los Alamos National Lab. Yeah.
Los Alamos National
It's
Lab.
pretty
That's it.
boring.
It's pretty boring, yeah.
Yeah. And then
It's a government-sponsored lab.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally government funded. And then growing up in high school, I did a bunch of programming. I did all these coding competitions, and I was getting recruiter inbounds in high school. So after high school, I actually came out here to work. I worked at this company, Quora, for a couple of years.
Yeah, we know it. They do the Q&A site.
Yeah, Q&A site.
How'd you get that job? You just applied and they saw your code and they were like, okay.
They recruiter inbounds because I was an anonymous person on these coding competitions. And then
So you could just go into a coding competition. Nobody knows your age.
Yeah.
And then you teach yourself how to code?
Or
courses?
the internet taught me how to code. I guess the internet.
You just looked it up. You found courses online on
Yeah.
YouTube or?
Yeah. It's hard to remember. I think I just Googled around.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I worked at Quora for a couple of years doing engineering, infrastructure, etc. And then
College.
No, well, then I went to college after that.
Ah.
I went to MIT, and then got basically bored after a year and started Scale.
So you left.
I left, yeah.
So your parents were heartbroken about you leaving MIT at that time.
For now.
They're still heartbroken even after you raised $100 million? My God, these parents have high standards.
Yeah. I mean, it's a meme, but it's true.
Yeah. All right. Listen, mom and dad, he's going to build a building at MIT with your name on it, the family name on it. So cut him a break. It'll be okay. You'll be a professor emeritus at some point.
Yeah. Well, one can hope. Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't be professor emeritus. That would be somebody who left. You'd be like a honorary professor.
Yeah. That would be the way I'd appease my parents.
Yeah, because you went to work for a couple of years, then you went to MIT. That is not the way to do it because you're going to be sitting there and everything's going to be going so slow and everything's theoretical.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, that's.
So you went from like running fast, you're driving race cars, and then they like put you in the pit in the go-karts, and they're like, "Here's some go-karts."
Yeah, and if I'm being honest, I think the slower speed of school is sort of what got me agitated enough to eventually start the company. I think there's an alternate world where I continued working at companies after Quora for many, many years.
So what was the vision for Scale? How did you get the idea? When did you have the idea?
So our mission is to accelerate the development of AI applications. I think we fundamentally view AI and machine learning as kind of a once in a generation shift in technology. I
It
think
might be once in a species, by the way,
yeah. I mean, it's a
depending on how this goes.
yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's a. I mean, it's obviously very hyped, but I think we hold that belief quite strongly. And
Do you think it's as big as the internet or bigger? The internet itself took billions of people and connected them for the first time.
yeah,
So bigger than the internet and bigger than the silicon chip being, CPUs being created?
I think it's more comparable to the advent of computing than it is to the advent of the internet because it's an enabler of all these things that previously had to be done by humans and now can be done by machines.
Got it. Okay.
Um,
So for you to rank them AI, computer, internet, or maybe computer, AI, internet?
We'll see what happens between AI and computer. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll watch intently over the coming decades.
Yeah, because computers did change our day-to-day lives pretty significantly.
Yeah, well, AI will as well.
Yeah.
With autonomous vehicles and all of these assistants on your phone, and I think it'll go on and on and on.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more applications.
All right. So that's the backdrop. And then you have some insight on what was holding back AI or something?
Yeah, so the big reason I went back to school actually was to study machine learning. So I was at Quer. It was a very machine learning driven company, but I didn't have that strong an academic backing, and so I went back to MIT to really study this more deeply. And then I had all these ideas of products I wanted to build, but there was sort of an elephant in the room problem, which was how are you supposed to get the data to build these machine learning models that you could integrate into a product.
So give me an example of that, and then define for the audience that's not super familiar with the term machine learning, what is the difference between saying the word machine learning and AI? For people who hear them together,
Yeah.
how would you explain what each one is?
Yeah, so machine learning is a subset of AI.
Okay.
It's sort of a particular kind of AI where, in particular, we're training these, you sort of are writing programs that are able to do various things that humans normally do, or various tasks that traditionally would require human judgment, and they're able to do that by feeding them lots of data. And sort of a particular brand of AI, if you will.
So we pick a task that humans have done with their brains, which is some combination of logic, intuition, who knows what human brains are, how they're making decisions.
Exactly.
A lot of debate about that. So you feed a bunch of data to a machine learning algorithm.
Yep.
And then it gives you an answer that it thinks would approximate a human's answer or the best answer.
It thinks it would approximate the best answer, but the only way it's going to know what the best answer is through all this data that humans have created.
Got it. Let's come up with the most illustrative example. What's an example that when you gave this example to VCs, they threw money at you?
Well, the one that has really captivated the world's attention is autonomous vehicles, right?
Sure.
And it's a compelling example because first, nobody likes driving, but also driving is very unsafe, and there's a lot of risk in driving.
Sure.
And so
A lot at stake.
yeah, exactly. And so the captivating sort of machine learning model is one that can take in all of the camera data and other sensor data from the vehicle, understand everything that's going on around it, something that's very easy for you or I, but currently, or at least before machine learning was very difficult for machines, and then can determine the best path to take and figure out how to drive on its own, basically.
Got it. So we see the lane markers, double yellow markers, double white markers on the highway. We know keep the car between those two lines
Exactly.
as smoothly as possible.
Yeah.
We see somebody deviate from their lane into ours. We know to slow down, give them some room. Maybe they're drunk. Machine doesn't know that inherently. We have to teach it that.
Exactly.
And what does scale.com do that Tesla and Waymo don't already do
Yeah, exactly.
to solve that problem? Because they're solving that problem. Do they use your software and do they need to?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the core problem, as you just laid out, is that machines don't know what to do unless they have data that actually tells them what they're supposed to be doing, right? And so what that means is one of the huge bottlenecks for machine learning is data. It ends up being like data that tells these algorithms, tells these models what they're supposed to be doing. And that's where scale comes in. What we are is sort of this data refinery, if you will. We accept a bunch of raw data from our customers. We go through and process it, and we tell the machine what it should be doing. For example, given an image taken by a self-driving car, we would outline these are where the people are, these are where the cars are, these are the lane markings, etc. So that over time these algorithms can learn those things.
You have a video of that you can show right here. So here's a video of Pacific Street in
You have a better eye than I, but yeah.
I'm going to take a guess. That's one of those streets, and it's one of those streets. And I see you are highlighting cars, you're highlighting people.
Exactly.
And the machine is figuring out, okay, that's the approximate shape of a Dodge pickup truck, that's a Toyota Prius, and these look like the silhouettes of people. But that's a human telling the machine that's what it is for now.
Yeah, exactly. So the core way that our whole pipeline works is that a lot of work is done behind the scenes by machines and our own AI models originally, and then humans basically give input and correct mistakes to make sure that the end data is extremely accurate, because that ultimately is what's important for the safety of these systems and for low bias, etc. All these things that are needed, imperative for machine